can't control your emotions at that point.
Yeah.
So I mean, I get it. I don't think to the magnitude that you've experienced it, but I've certainly gone down that road, and it's scary because you don't know.
Yeah.
And you don't know. You're so like your hormones are all over the place. You have all these confusing things. Like it's just too much input at one time.
Yeah, and I mean back then it's not like you went to your parents or whatever, because if they did, they either didn't know what to say to you. And my parents were great. If I had any problems, I'm not saying that they weren't, but you know, dad's working, mom's working. You find that clique of friends, and luckily, I finally found it, and I'm still friends with them today.
Yeah.
And it got me away from that. But then, like 7th grade in the '80s, it was all about wrestling. So you know, the WWF was huge. So you wrestled, you did whatever. So the big kid was always the cool kid for football or whatever.
I never had that problem.
I can't help it. You were scrawny. I didn't know you then. If you were, we probably would have hung out.
If my sister had a haircut like Billie Jean King, that's what I looked like.
I've met your sister, so it's possible I could picture that.
You know what? When we post this video, I'm gonna put the split screen of me and my sister just to show.
It's gonna be.
It's
that's
gross.
Gonna get it's rough. That's gonna get a lot of likes.
It's gross.
It might.
It's weird.
Hey, you know, I don't want to fantasize about you and confuse it with your sister. That's just weird.
That will ruin any type of future romantic endeavors.
It'll definitely ruin it. But again, you know, guys like us, we'll forget about it and prosper on. Nothing
Our attention span's way too short to care.
It is. I already forgot what I was talking about.
I don't remember how we got here in the first place.
No, but you know, 7th grade was rough. But then you go into 8th grade, you're doing whatever, the dances, everything. You have your socials. So everybody's starting to discover boys, and or if they're girls, because girls have went through the same things we did.
Yeah.
I mean, they may not. Well, they could have had their mom pick them up because they're a little bitch, or they could have beat up the whole.
Could not. I might be the only clown in Coventry that happened.
No.
I'm the only one that openly admits to it.
I mean, I lived in the neighborhood when I did something wrong and I beat up the kids. The mothers of the children always said their kid was an angel, even though they may have started it or they may not have. But you know, my parents were always like, yeah, no, if he did it, he probably did it. He had a reason for it. They weren't shy to say, you know, if he did it, I'm sorry, he probably had a reason.
Yeah.
Or I would just tell them 20 years later when it was too late to tell them. Sorry, guys. Sorry, Mom. Sorry, Dad.
Hashtag shit happens.
Yeah, again. So, you know, going into 8th grade and everything, your attitude's changing, but then you go into, like, high school, you got sports, so now everybody wants to be around the big kid because football and everything, so...
Oh, you must have been popular, like nose tackle, like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you
I
played
mean, ninth grade was fun. Everybody's starting to date and everything, so I didn't really have that, I'll say that much luck, because again, you're either looked at as the guy that's big enough on the football team, but you're still the slowest guy on the team, or you're Mr. Joe Cool and you can get everything, but then the girls don't want you.
They lump you into all these different categories.
Yeah, so during high school I didn't date much. I mean, I was a social butterfly, but I got involved with the wrong crowds, and I may have skated with good and bad choices, we'll say, throughout most of my high school and adolescent career. And I don't regret anything I did. Except for maybe sometimes how I treated people, because, you know, of my own insecurities and anger. When I would get picked on, I'm not going to say I didn't find somebody in a different situation and to make myself feel better.
It's going to make its way out of you eventually.
Yeah, and I feel to this day, if I ever see it, I, like, revert and I, like, unleash hell on the person doing it, because you have no idea what they're going through, and I'm not condoning what I did was right, but you have no idea. Like, if you saw the kid getting chased by 6 kids, I know you're not the type to just stop and do nothing. You'll probably just jump out and be like, I'll fight all you little
I would
bastards.
stop and scream like a woman.
Well,
that's exactly what I would do.
No, you probably, yeah. I don't think so. I think your character's a lot stronger than
I have a rape whistle I keep in my pocket at all times. I would just blow the hell out of that thing.
You know, again, I think that's more for your own enjoyment. So
That's
not
true.
gonna say.
I use it in the
it's not.
shower.
You can't possibly do it to yourself. I mean, if you could, I probably have.
You want to plan a sleepover? I can prove everything you just said wrong.
Well, that's fine. Let me tell you, a lot of lonely, cold nights playing video games. That's what they called it. No.
Don't disturb me when I'm cleaning my room.
I'm vacuuming, Mom. You know, you got.
Just take a break for a sec.
What happened? It's not bad once you get rolling.
Yeah.
It's fun minus the sweaty years.
Right, yeah.
I wonder how much shit I'm gonna catch for that rape whistle joke.
Yeah, but you know what? Controversy sells.
I absolutely do have a rape whistle in my bag. My gym.
You do.
Well, it's a whistle they
Take
gave
it
me.
to the shower with me at the gym.
They gave it to
No.
Brianna. It was from King County Hospital.
Yeah.
It's like a little whatever thing.
That's your come rape me with, so.
That's how I attract men. All right, so now you're talking about you going into high school now. So
Yeah,
tell me how
so,
things changed at that point. And what did you know roughly your weight at that point?
Oh, Jesus. High school, I had to be 220s, 230s, if not more.
And you were playing football and wrestling.
I was playing football. I tried wrestling, but it wasn't my thing because I did football for all the fall wrestling. You know, I wanted to go out. Again, I was either with the football crowd being responsible, doing what I had to do, or I was with we'll say the other crowds being irresponsible.
The outsiders.
Yeah, well, basically that's what it was. I mean, if you had the modern day greasers, that's kind of what we were. I mean, nothing was sacred, nothing mattered. And again, I don't regret anything I did except sometimes how I acted. But you know, that's just who I was, what I was trying to hide.
Oh yeah.
It's how I felt. I felt the most, and even when I was getting picked on with that other crowd or the football team. And I mean, the high school in the 90s, kids were relentless. You were either a jock, an outsider, a nerd.
And if you weren't a jock or like something to do with like some type of like
Yeah.
like a sporting program, you were
Yeah.
just like nothing. You were,
Yeah, I mean, I joke and I love my wife to death, but she was in the band, and I to this day still call her a band geek. But you know what? Was her clique, and she excelled at it. And now, I mean, she's an amazing woman. She went to a rival high school, so we didn't really meet till much after. But
You guys went to rival high schools too?
Yeah.
Yes, I was
I went-
Coventry. My wife was West Warwick.
Yeah, we went to Pilgrim and she went to Vets. God rest its soul. It's now middle school, so that's still an ongoing joke in my house.
Yeah, but I think you win at that point.
I
That
think
school
I did.
failed.
Yeah, every Thanksgiving after we like became friends, let me tell you, it was.
You could probably go to their field right now and just see hobos drinking out of a bag at this
Pro-
point.
Oh yeah, I
You
do.
win.
I do. I win. She still.
There's no
thinks-
argument anymore.
No. But you know, so you wear. I wore a lot of different masks. Like you said, I was either quiet and reserved, like you first met me, and that's because you know. I'll be honest. When I first met you, I was intimidated because you were this I thought you were this muscle-bound idiot. You were.
He was
everything-
right.
Yeah. Well, you were everything I wanted to be. You were.
I feel really sorry for you right now.
Well, I didn't know what kind of a human being you were, but no, you were jacked. You had a great physique, and then
Could you say the last part one more time?
you were jacked and had a great
Thank
physique.
you. Okay, thank you.
I know I'm feeding your ego.
I'm
that's
gonna
why I
sleep
did
like
it.
a baby tonight.
After the podcast, you're gonna anyway. That's when the show starts. No,
But thank you for the
you're
compliment.
welcome. But you know, I had a teacher that I'm still friends with today, and he ended up being my football coach, Chris Torham. And you know, he went because my parents didn't. My dad was all about me playing football. My mother wasn't. It was all baseball growing up because my father would like right before they got married, the stupid ass goes and plays pickup football and breaks both his legs before they get married. So she's like, no football for my son, no football for my son. I'm like, whatever. But I could play baseball and whatever else. I mean, I jumped over a fence with cleats on and got a nail in the back of my head before a soccer match. But that was fine. Mom was like, yeah, no, just...
But it's not football.
It's not football. I'm like, I got a giant spike in the back of my head at like 7 years old, but it's okay.
That's okay. The likelihood that that's going to happen again is very
And
low.
I still think that might have been the reason for some of the brain damage, but you know, I'm perfectly fine.
We'll blame the nail. That's fine.
Yeah, you know. But so he went to them and said, you know what? I see something in them, and let them try. So they did, and you know that helped me from like the transition from 8th to 9th to get on a different path. And then, I mean, I would work out here and there, but it wasn't like something that really was a passion.
But I mean, what I'm picking up from this is that the sports help keep you more regimented.
Yeah, at least for the from August to call it November, because I had to be. I had to get the good grades. I had to.
Oh yeah, I always forget about that. Like you had to keep a
because
certain
back
grade
then
plan.
you had Friday nights. You get those phone calls like the Friday Night Lights. Even though in Warwick we barely had many Friday games, it was like, make sure you're home for your curfew. Your captain's gonna call you, and meanwhile the captain's out drinking, getting high.
He's calling you.
whatever.
He's calling you from the backstop.
Yeah, he's calling from the backstop, but he's out probably banging the cheerleader or whatever. Of course, you want to be doing that. And again, Trust me, we had a lot of nice girls in school. I wouldn't have said no to many of them. Probably any of them.
Connecticut.
Oh, God. But, you know, I didn't date. Not for lack of trying, I didn't date much in high school. I mean,
Yeah.
it was a lot of shot downs, or I don't want to be seen with the big kid, you know, and I'm like, all right, so I'll do what I can do. I did what I had to, here, there, and everywhere. If there were, I don't want to say leftovers, but, you know, it was just...
There's no shame in this house.
No, you know? You do what you got to do to get yours when you're an adolescent, overweight kid. And I mean, I was always respectable, you know? Except to myself, of course. I had myself, man.
If you're going to abuse anyone, it's got to be
That's
yourself.
right. All holes were, or no holes barred when it came to abusing myself, man.
Great Hulk Hogan movie, by the way.
Yeah,
Put
it
out a
is.
couple chicken bones and some barbecue
Yeah,
sauce on the
that's it.
nightstand and just fucking go to
I
town.
mean, I would set myself the most romantic dinners and just abuse the shit out of me. My body was not a temple, let me tell you.
I feel like I can't even look at myself right now.
No. Oh, I would, just so I'd know what I was doing. It's like, yeah, you know what you're getting. No, I mean, so...
You ever make a mirror cry? That's a story for another time. Never mind.
Can't wait for that one. But, you know, so then lifting... And I was always a like Incredible Hulk fan, and it was the cheesiest of shows back in the day.
Oh,
you know,
Bruce, with Bill Bixby,
Ferrigno,
yeah.
Bill Bixby, all that. It was like that's what I also watched with my grandparents or with my dad and whatever. Because TV shows in the '90s, the '80s were amazing. I don't care how terrible they were. They didn't have CGI. Those were Ferrigno's muscles and like Schwarzenegger, Terminator, all that. That was them.
And as a kid who's struggling with image issues,
Yeah.
you look at that and it's like, I went through this thing because I was always small, I was always skinny. That's all I wanted was to just be like a big muscle.
And I had
guy.
friends that could just jack up like nobody's business. No matter how many times I tried, I would bulk up and I would get stronger, but it would just be the fat on top of the muscle.
Yeah.
And you know, to this day, I probably don't know if I'll ever have that definition that I want. I don't know if I'll ever look like as cut up as Ferrigno was in his 30s and 40s, but you know, I'm never going to stop trying. But
No, that's the key, is that you have a goal. And listen, even guys who get to a certain level, doesn't matter what fitness level they're trying to achieve, even when they get there, if you're like me, you just find something else wrong, and it just keeps you motivated.
Yeah.
So whether or not you actually ever get exactly where you want, I think it's the journey. I think it's just the fact that you stay focused on something and you keep working towards it. So
yeah.
I don't think it's detrimental to look at it that way. I think it's a good thing, because even if you get to that point, okay, then what? Like, you
Yeah,
climbed
and I
Everest,
mean-
now what can I climb?
Well, I mean, if you climb Everest, then good thing you didn't die.
It was a girl I met.
Yeah,
Everest,
well,
named
you know,
Everest.
that's a story for another time. The wife might be listening, but again, no shame.
She can't watch this.
No, she can't know about it. She might already. But no, so then I got into lifting. So as soon as football season was over, that's all I did was every day after school was go to the weight room in the school and lift.
Mhm.
And then if I could find an affordable gym, then I would go there. I mean, I remember going back to like the old days of All Star Gym down
Oh
on
God, yeah.
Park Ave,
Mhm.
and I would go there with my buddies, and we would just go for hours and hours and hours and just put up as much weight. Like, that was the biggest thing. I mean, I don't know how many times a week I was doing bench, because nobody even told me you had to have a regimen. I would be benching every single
Just
day.
going. Well, that's what
Yeah.
you wanted to do when your kid is
That's
going
it.
to
You
big
just
bench
want to
press.
bench, and my goal was to bench over 300. And I was like, I'm gonna bang. And then after I hit that, I was like, I want to bench 500. And I'm like, that's all I ever did. But like, so football kept me busy, and then I had to put myself into something afterwards. So it was weightlifting, and you know, even with the weightlifting, the school, everything struggled with the weight, and still relentless. To people like that you could be calling your best friend, in the morning they would just be, you'd hear them making fun of you, and you know, as much as they say words hurt, it's true.
Of course.
You know
it
what,
is.
I was no better. If I joined in and made fun of somebody else, it was taking the attention off me, and that was my biggest thing. It was like,
So you
all right,
deflected a lot.
yeah, how much can I take off me? And I got into a lot of trouble. I had a lot of fights. I would rather use my fist and shut them up back then, because again, you didn't. Who knew it? It was easier to just talk it out back then. I mean, sometimes, and I don't condone it, but sometimes that was my only option.
It was almost it was like expected in like the 80s and 90s.
Well, yeah, I mean, because everybody wanted to be, like I joke and call you Macho, but everybody wanted to be the Johnny, or the Ralph Macchio, the Daniel, or whatever.
Sweep the leg.
That's it. You just
Sweet.
wanted a crane kick. I mean, how many times, or like WWF, you wanted to DDT somebody. I'm not saying that I might or not have, but you know, that was a thing to do. And then, so I made it through high school just staying comfortable enough with the different social groups till
Yes.
after.
Let me ask you a question. Throughout this whole process, like your weight is going up at this point, correct?
Mhm.
Had your eating habits changed at any point? Like it sounds like your activity level had gone
My
up.
activity stayed consistent. Like during football season, I was always running, doing whatever.
Mm.
But I was always the last, so I was always the slowest. So that's why, and I didn't a lot of apply myself as much as I probably should have. If I did, I might have gone further with football because I loved it. To this day, I still love it. If I
Yeah.
could go back and change, that would probably be the only thing. But my eating, you know, you're a kid, you just you eat your bologna and cheese sandwiches, your peanut butter and jelly, or you go and just get school lunches. But the hardest part for me is as you're being made fun of, like food is just always there. It's easily accessible, whether
Yeah.
it's at home, at school, wherever, and it was an escape if you're having a bad day, if you're having a bad mood. That was my escape. I still catch myself doing it now. I have a stressful day or what have you, I find myself going to food, comfort food.
Yeah.
You want the pizza, you want the hot dogs, you just want to feel, it makes me feel good, and that was how I ended up where I ended up, because I had food, and then I didn't drink a lot, but then like high school hit, I started drinking, I started, we'll say, experimenting with other things, and then it escalated from there. It was just one after the other, booze and other stuff, and food, and you know, it didn't matter to me if I was the big kid, because that's what everybody expected of me.
So you just kind of became what
so I
everyone expected
became
you
the
to be.
big, loud, boisterous person, and that's just, you know, who I was, who I made my persona to be, just big and loud.
How old were you when you started to experience like some like health issues that to go along with this?
I was probably, the first scare that I had wasn't till my early to mid-20s, when I was working at Walmart and stress started to get me. They thought I had taken a heart attack. Because again, with all the weight and the anger issues, I like hated the world. So authority figures, jobs, everything, it was like, F you, I'm gonna go do what I want. I mean, I worked at Rocky Point for 3 years, 4 years. That's where I met my wife, and you know, it was just a constant party. And my house was always the party house. We'd go to work every day. We'd get out of work at night. We'd come back to my house because I had a pool, and we'd drink and we'd whatever. Then we'd go to Bigford's.
Oh, Bigford's.
Yeah, and then
My
you know,
God.
going to Bigford's, you just
The
party all
lumberjack
night.
slam.
The lumberjack, the
Oh, yeah.
steak, the mozzarella sticks, and the steak and cheese. I would get a mozzarella stick and a steak and cheese sandwich, just ketchup and cheese.
If
from
you-
Chuck, that was still. When he was
If you were
alive.
smart enough, you can go there and leave with diabetes. On the right
I
night.
did. I'd like to say that they are probably one of the reasons I have it. That, and among other things.
Yeah, that
But,
place is good.
yeah. So no, and that was the other thing too. I didn't working at Rocky Point. You're a young kid. You're out partying. You're doing whatever. You don't have a lot of money, so you know what? You work in the food stands. You're just gonna grab whatever you can on break. So it's
Yes,
usually
whatever.
hot dogs, hamburgers,
Cheap,
candy,
convenient
whatever.
stuff.
It's free. You're working the stand. You get fed. So during the summers, that was my nutrition. I mean, I had
Yeah.
friends that worked in fast food, so we were the dollar menu before the dollar menu was anything. It was like 59 cent, 69 cent cheeseburgers. I'm like, oh, I got a bag in my car. Oh yeah, hey, I just came through the drive-thru and you forgot my food. You get free food. Not saying that I ever scam, but hey, you know, you do what you got to do.
It's actually a really good idea.
It was. We were pretty. I was
Jot that
pretty.
down
Yeah, you
real
might
quick.
want to. Again, bad crowds came up with a lot of crafty ways to get what I needed: food, clothes, whatever. And I mean, I couldn't go to a normal store to get clothes. I had to go to the big and tall, and you know, where normal people's jeans cost like 10 or 15, 20 bucks. Their one pair of jeans is 50 bucks, so you like stretch it out till they're doing like the 2 for $90 special, so it brings it down to 45 bucks. So
Yeah.
you limit how many times you're going to go there, like a t-shirt. Now I can go to Kohl's and spend like 10, 20 bucks for two.
Yeah.
There it was 30 bucks, 40 bucks for one.
That's a lot of, I mean, for clothes back in like the 90s, it's a
Yeah,
lot of money,
90s,
especially when you're not-
2000s, yeah. And I mean, I worked at Walmart. It was not like they carried the bigger sizes, so I
No.
had to still go up until, Jesus, till the surgery into, 2015? Big and tall.
Yeah.
That was the best day of my life when I said adios to those places. But
So when I met you in 2005, did you prior to that? Because obviously you're shopping in the store, so you're trying to do the things necessary to kind of move in the right direction. And if I remember correctly, you were trying to drop a little bit of weight to prep yourself for the surgery, or like you were thinking about it the first time around.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about why you didn't have the surgery the first time around.
So when I met you, I had been going to, I think it was Fitness Connection at the time. Over
Rob Gaglione's place.
Yeah, over on Post Road. And like I said, I had gone to All Star. And after high school, when I would go to All Star, I would get, that's when I first got introduced to like the supplements and everything, because I didn't know of anything during school, because you're a 16, 17-year-old kid, you're like, I don't need anything. Then I got introduced to like supplements that I thought were helpful, but it turned out it wasn't.
Pro hormones.
Yeah, it was like dimetadrine. Remember when it
Oh,
was
the fat burner.
The fat burn. I was like, I'm gonna try everything, but then come to find out years later that dimetadrine was basically just
that was
another...
almost crystal meth, is what
Pretty
that
much.
was.
I mean, let
no
me
exaggeration.
tell you, it was a high that I won't forget. My workouts are amazing.
Maddie, you could take this stuff, literally, you could take 2 of them, and you'd be up for like 2 days.
Yep, and I was taking 4.
Yeah,
At my size, I was taking 4. I could have ran through Steve's walls, and he wouldn't have to worry about that.
I'm telling you, you would sweat through 4 outfits at the gym. You wouldn't sleep. You'd be grinding your teeth.
You would have, I would take it during school, and I would just bust out having laughing spells, or I would crash and go to sleep in class.
And then cry hysterically at nothing.
Or cry hysterically at nothing. But the worst was you like fall asleep, and you wake up in the morning, it's like the binder's going in front of your junk. You gotta stop this shit.
Your hormones and emotions, well, it's like you were giving birth on fat burners. Like you were just an emotional wreck.
Goddamn yo-yo. I didn't know if I wanted to fight, cry,
have sex, sleep, eat, jump
some
off a
of the
bridge.
times I would wake up and I would have to put a book in front of it. I could have pounded through one of the concrete walls.
Yeah, that stuff
Jesus
was
Christ.
amazing.
It was amazingly terrible, but I didn't know any better.
Nobody did.
No.
And you had Fitness Technologies in Warwick that was giving that to every high school kid that walked in that store.
Yeah, I think that's where I was getting it at the time. And then, so I was going to Fitness Connection, Rob's gym, and then I said, you know what, let me try going over here, because somebody had suggested protein at the time that I was working out. Kids like, try some protein, it'll help you. Because the thing that I was always pushed to was, it was always the smaller kids, like, I'm going to do creatine and everything. I'm like, I don't need mass.
Yeah, no, you don't need
I didn't need mass. I didn't need to add more. I wanted a supplement to help me tone up, cut down. But I was never, ever, to this day, I will never cut my heavy lifting out. It was like, we gotta lift less, more reps, less weight. I'm like, I'm never gonna stop lifting heavy. That's who I am, what I want to be. I want to always be the strongest kid in the room.
Yeah, it's your caloric intake dictates your shape, the volume of your workouts.
My goal, and I may never hit it in this lifetime, but I'm never gonna stop, is to bench 500 pounds.
What are you at right now on the bench?
A lot changed after the surgery, so I just did on last Monday. I got 240, so.
So you want to hit, all right, so 260 more pounds.
Yeah, that's a lot. And again, I'm not a spring chicken anymore.
Let me see if I can track down some of that dimetadrine.
You know what? You track down that Mediterranean, I'm just gonna go bench press your car in my truck and probably your house.
Chew through the bumper.
Oh God!
A lot of that takes steroids to get to that point. Like at my absolute biggest and strongest, I think I was pushing 300 pounds. Like I wasn't.
I mean, I was natural.
And I was that was like as much as my bones could bench.
Yeah, your tendons are only going to allow you so much. I mean, and it's hard too. Like you can train specifically. Like I'm going to have Wayne that used to work for me. You remember Wayne, right? Yeah. So he's going to be coming on the show on Sunday, and we've had this discussion numerous times. You can train and you can make small progress here and there, but at some point, man, like you're gonna have to go on a drug arsenal to kind of overcome that. The strongest I've ever been is I hit 405 for 2. That was like in the early 2000s, and I wasn't even on roids at that time. I've never taken roids. I was on the old
hashtag shit happens.
Hashtag where's my balls. I was taking pro hormones at the time and Celtec, the original Celtec, which come to find out had pro hormones in it. So that's
I mean, when I first met you, that was like Fitness Connection was like my first like real gym besides All Star. I mean, All Star back in the day, there was all kinds of shit.
Actually, Fitness Connection was the same thing. That was like a drug.
It was, but I don't want to talk because I stayed away from it. But at that point in my life, I knew what to look for. When I was at All Star, I had no idea what to look for. I mean, it was grungy, it was dirty, but it was what I loved. But there were dudes that had biceps the size of my waist. I'm like, that's insane.
And
That's what I want.
If you saw those guys now,
Yeah.
if you,
Yeah, if they're still alive, mind you.
yeah, that's the key word. If they're still alive.
Yeah.
I straight struggled with bigorexia. I was I was a big motherfucker when I was lifting, and
Yeah,
I would
you were.
look and I'd be like, man, how come I'm not as big as that guy?
Yeah.
I should lift more, and I ended up tearing my rotator cuff. I got joint problems. I got arthritis all throughout my body, and it's from chasing other people's.
And that's what it
disease.
is. You don't realize, like, when you going, like, I've been going to the gym since I was like 15 years old,
Yeah.
and you realize you spend so much time in there coveting with other guys, what other guys have,
Yeah.
and it sounds weird to say that, but that's
No,
exactly
but
what you're
and-
doing.
And it almost becomes like...
So for you, I'm just imagine, like, you go put you in that environment where you have that body dysmorphia, and now you're struggling with weight on top of that. So it's like I don't know if double jeopardy would be the right
No,
word,
I mean,
but
I
it's
had
like you're getting it from every angle at
friend
that point.
that I grew up with, from like when I met him from 7th grade to if I even saw him this day. I mean, we're not as close as we used to be, but he was always jacked and ripped, and he had the traps and everything. Because like when Goldberg busted onto the scene,
Everybody wanted traps.
I wanted those traps.
Everybody did.
My wife's like, you don't want those. I'm like, no, I want to literally walk around and be like, where's my neck? I want no neck. They're like, why? Well, at my size, I had no neck, but it was just all fat.
You just wanted to carve it. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, I was just all fat. I was a mountain, but it was just all waiting. It was like waiting for Da Vinci to come carve me. But, you know, that would have been a lot of clay. They would have been pounding me. I mean, not that I wouldn't have minded. He can. No, but, you know, I always wanted something that I couldn't have. And then when I met you, like I said, I didn't know how to take you, but I wanted, and it's gonna inflate your ego, and I'm gonna say it anyway.
Bring it on.
I wanted your physique.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Not-
It's very, very kind of you.
Not your listeners, and not to make it in a non-heterosexual way. I mean, if it is, that's okay.
Hashtag me too.
Yeah, that's a whole different hashtag, folks. No, but I wanted the physique you had, like the typical muscle-bound.
Just short, stocky, like.
Not even so much short, but I wanted to be able to, like, when you flex, you see the cut of my bicep. I wanted to have where the traps come up to my ears.
But it makes sense why you wanted that, because you had, like, you know, I can't imagine what that does to somebody psychologically. Like, you have all this mass to work with, so you look at that and it's like you have all this potential, and come to find out that all these years you have your own body is sabotaging you because of the way you were medically treated as a young
everybody's like, you're never going to have that no matter how hard you try. I'm like, I can sit down, and at that point in my life when I met you, I could squat 600 pounds. They're like, you're going to have bad knees when you get older, you're going to have this. I'm like, I feel fine. You don't understand. I may not be able to run the 40 in 5 seconds, but I'm not that tired. I'm not, like, crashing, sleeping. Granted, I would go eat a pizza and then go have a grinder and then, like, 40 boneless chicken fingers or whatever, and that's how I got... Well, it was. That's how I got the nickname Fusco Uno when I was going to go into wrestling, because I would just eat and I was a spectacle. That's what made me. Everybody wanted to be around me. At least that's what I thought. The more louder I got, the crazier I got, the stupider shit.
You knew you can get positive attention that way.
I just fed into it, and my escape was the gym. It still is my escape now, but now it's an escape for a different reason. When I first met Jess back in June of '94, she was the first person that saw through the loud, boisterous, jackass persona and actually let me take that wall down. And
it's hard. It's hard to let somebody into that part of your life.
I refuse.
When you're used to having that defense mechanism, it's incredibly difficult to let somebody see that part of you.
Oh yeah, we fought like cats and dogs, and you know what? I'll give her a lot of credit, because the one night she was out with, we were just friends, but she was out with a guy, and again, we were adolescents, and I...
Give Matt his address, we'll fix that.
No, I fixed it that night.
Good.
But we were at Rocky Point working, and we were just friends, but I heard she was out, so when Rocky Point, if anybody remembers, I know I'm dating myself, the food office was on one side, the hill, like after you came in from the main entrance, I made it from there to the other side, I don't know how, I don't even remember, ran down the hill, and as the car came up, I slammed my hands on the hood of the car and made it stop. My buddy that I'm friends with still today shit himself and said, "You're not after me, right?" I said, "Get the fuck out of here. I want the kid in the back with Jess." The driver of the car ran off, left his car running, left Jess and the kid in the back, and she looked at me and goes, "You're gonna have to go through me if you want to get to him." And from that day on, I'm like, she's the girl I want.
Yeah.
She was the only person, still to this day, to not put up with my bullshit. She will put me in my place no matter how mad, no matter how sad, no matter what. She is my rock. She is the reason that I'm here today.
It's an awesome feeling, isn't it?
Well, yeah, not when somebody's that you're like, you think you're unstoppable and you got a chick getting in your face.
No, listen, you forget.
At
Go
that
back.
time.
Rewind the footage. I did tell you that my mother saved me from a beating, so I mean,
Well,
this
I
isn't that big of a difference.
Well, it would be weird because I do have sex with this woman, so it's not hashtag have sex with your mother. So that's just weird, but that's not. It's not that
A
kind
little
of
bit of
podcast.
curveball there, folks.
Yeah, it's not a Freudian podcast, but no, she was the one that my biggest supporter, even still to this day, even today, before I left to come
Yeah,
here.
she adores you, man.
She
Anytime
does.
I see you guys, she
I
absolutely
mean,
adores you.
she's like Bree with you. She's like, yeah, anybody wants them, less work I gotta do. You can have them, but you know what? If anybody were to come near me and hurt me in any way, not to make it weird, she would pull like your mom. She would throw me in the car and drive my ass away.
We call it what do we me and Brianna call it? Pulling a Linda is my mom's
Yeah,
first name.
yeah.
Pulling a Linda.
Yeah.